What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to be going over several tips and things you may want to know if you're a controller player in Fortnite Chapter 7. As always, if you guys do enjoy this video, find it helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you like to see more, and comment down below what controller you use to play Fortnite if you are a controller player. The first thing we're going to talk about is going to be settings and some things you may want to change, because one of the main limiting factors for controller is we have a limited amount of buttons and you need to do a lot of things in game. And certain buttons require you to take your thumbs off the analog stick to activate them. And that is one of the main limiting factors for controller. If you need to take your thumb off the right stick to jump, then your jump shotting and trying to hit shots while doing so is not going to be as accurate or as consistent, because you're moving your thumb from the stick to the buttons and then back and forth. Same thing with crouching. These movement things that you do in fights, like jumping and crouching, you want to be able to have those actions bound to buttons that you can hit without taking your thumb off the right stick. That way you can jump and aim just fine, or you can crouch and aim just fine, you can slide and aim just fine. Movement is going to be very important in fights, and you want to be able to aim while doing those actions. The main problem, though, is that with custom keybinds, you can kind of solve this. Like maybe you put jump on one of the bumpers or crouch on like the analog stick. But even though Fortnite does have completely custom binds, having completely ideal situations is rough if you're on a regular controller holding it normally. So the most common kind of solution to this problem is going to be using a custom controller that has buttons on the back or paddles on the back, and then you can bind those buttons to jump or crouch or whatever you need to do. That way you can do everything without taking your thumbs off the stick. My controller sponsor AIM is currently having a sale where you can get a fully customized controller for $219 using code EvolveJake. And so normally when you're customizing a controller, you increase the price as you add things. But with this deal, you can customize it however you like, just pay one price, and that one price is much cheaper than a fully customized controller normally would be. So they will be linked down in the description below, but most custom controllers kind of offer the same thing. You also will be able to have digital triggers, buttons, and bumpers, meaning that everything is going to be as clicky and reactive as possible. There's TMR sticks, which are less prone to getting stick drift, and they feel much more similar to the regular analog sticks than Hall effects do, but their website will be linked down in the description, like I said. Another setting that is going to be very important if you play controller is going to be your sensitivity. And I think it's important that you find a sensitivity that feels controllable to you, but also fast enough to react to and track enemies. Because one mistake a lot of players make is they want to go super high on their sensitivity. That way they can move fast and react fast. But a lot of times by doing that, you lose out on aim and you lose out on consistency. So you need to find a middle ground. And Fortnite luckily does have, aim down sight settings, and your base regular settings will be for your hip fire. It is extremely important that you find a hip fire sensitivity that feels good for you tracking enemies in close range, because Fortnite, a lot of the more important fights are going to be those close range fights, the shotgun fights. And if your hip fire sensitivity is not something that you can comfortably track enemies with, whether it's too fast or too slow, that is going to be a very big problem and a very big limiting factor for you in close range fights. So find a hip fire sensitivity that feels comfortable to you. Whether, some people think it's too fast, too slow, whatever works for you is what matters most. And you can copy another player's settings, but one problem I think a lot of players run into when copying another, content creator or pro player settings is going to be that they feel too attached to it. I think copying somebody's settings as like a starting point and then adjusting from there can be quite good. But if you copy somebody's settings and you're just forcing yourself to use them because, X player does it and they're really good, I think that is a bad mindset. Using them as a starting point and then making adjustments is good. Feeling forced to stick with that, I don't think is good. And if you look at a bunch of different players' settings, a bunch of pro controller players or content creators that play on controller, if you look at their settings, they're probably all different. And that should imply to you that there isn't just one best sensitivity that's going to work for everybody, right? If there was one just best thing that was definitively the best, everybody would be using it, but settings come down to preference. Another setting that is going to be important to adjust is going to be your dead zones. This is how much you move the stick before you start to see any sort of movement register in game. And the default dead zone settings is much higher than you would probably prefer. As you lower these, stick drift might be more of a problem because you're kind of loosening that threshold. But also it might make things feel too kind of like loose and janky kind of. And so you want to have a dead zone that's low enough to where you don't get stick drift, but also controllable to you. This is another setting that you need to play around with, but odds are lower than default would help you get better at the game and help you have more control over what's going on. Another thing that's really kind of limiting for controller players is going to be how you swap weapons, because keyboard has a separate bind for each inventory slot. With controller, you either use the quick weapon setting where you have to hold your swap button and then press another button to swap to that inventory slot, or the regular swapping, you swap back and forth left and right using 2 buttons. You know, one button is left, one button is right. Either way, swapping isn't as ideal as mouse and keyboard, and so this might be something that you need to really think about and get good at, because the way weapon swapping is in Fortnite and the way close range fights play out, swapping well and seamlessly is an important skill to have. And so whether you're going to use quick weapon or not, make this something that you actually intentionally focus on and try to work on and actually think about. And one thing that you can help improve your weapon swapping, regardless of what input method you play, is going to be using a consistent inventory setup every single game. So me, I always put shotgun slot 1, my spray weapon that I'm going to be complementing my shotgun with slot 2. Slot 3 and 5 are usually mobility, and then slot 4 is where I put my heals in the middle. It's the least convenient slot to get to, but usually getting to heals isn't like as timing of the essence as, you know, getting to your mobility or getting to your weapons. And so the way I have it, my shotgun is 1 swap away from my spray weapon, but it's also 1 swap away from one of my mobility items. And so I can use my mobility and then easily swap to my shotgun, or I can use my shotgun and then easily swap to my spray. Having them in the consistent setup every single game will help you build that muscle memory, but also putting things next to what you use will also make swapping as seamless, especially if you play on regular. Quick weapon, this doesn't matter as much, but one thing that will matter if you play on quick weapon is putting shotgun in slot 1, because quick weapon allows you to press a single button to get to slot 1. And I think being able to get to your shotgun consistently is incredibly important, because close range fights, milliseconds often matter. You want to be able to get to that shotgun as easily as possible and as consistently as possible. So I think putting shotgun in slot 1 is ideal. Left stick aiming is also going to be incredibly important if you're a controller player. The way analog sticks work out, it can be hard to make small adjustments, especially if your sensitivity isn't incredibly low, which you probably don't want your sensitivity incredibly low. But one of the ways that you can make, you know, small adjustments is by moving your character left to right, because as you move your character, this also moves your crosshair. And so if you move your character side to side, you can make small adjustments left to right and to correct your aim. So a lot of times I will get like somewhat close to the enemy and then move my character horizontally to like correct that and to track with them. And the way aim assist works in a lot of games, moving your character actually like activates or strengthens aim assist. It's kind of hard to describe, but the way some Cronus devices worked, I think in the past, was by making the game think you were constantly moving, even though you really weren't. And that activated the stronger aim assist. So not only is this going to help you make small adjustments, it's also hopefully going to improve your aim assist and hopefully make you a harder target to track, because, you know, you're not just standing completely still, giving your enemy an easy target. So moving while aiming is going to help with so many different factors all at the same time. And so you want to be doing this as much as possible. Obviously, if you're, you know, very far away, playing a head glitch or some piece of cover, you don't want to strafe out completely from your cover, but even just small movements left to right can help correct your aim and give you that stronger aim assist. Recoil is going to be another thing I see players talk about with controller, where they say it's too hard to control recoil. When you're shooting your weapons, you probably want to pull down. Most weapons kick straight up. Fortnite doesn't have much recoil as is, but the weapons that do have recoil, you just want to pull down slightly on your analog stick when shooting. And this, I guess, can be a habit that might take some time to get used to. I've been playing shooters for an incredibly long time on controller, so to me it's just kind of second nature. But just putting a little bit of downward pressure when you're shooting will control most recoil in Fortnite for the weapons that have recoil. And I think this can be also an important skill to develop, or dexterity to develop, I guess. It's kind of hard to describe. But being used to making those small adjustments with your stick, I think will also help you with like the finer moments of aiming. So getting used to making those small adjustments and moving your stick just a little bit or moving your thumb just a little bit to make those small adjustments can really help you. So again, just pull down on your stick when shooting if you play non-inverted, and you will probably reduce most of the recoil. Another problem I think a lot of controller players run into is that their expectations for aim assist is too high, and you will see this on countless videos where players comment that like my aim assist isn't that strong. I don't get aim assist ever, and things of that nature. And I think what a lot of players are expecting is the game to essentially aim for them. But most of what aim assist in Fortnite is just going to be reducing your sensitivity when you're on an enemy. There is like a slight degree of auto rotation, which is where the game kind of moves for you. It's not as drastic in Fortnite as it is in like Warzone or Apex. Fortnite's aim assist is much lower than those games. Most of what you get is slowdown. And so if you're expecting drastic results from aim assist, you're probably not going to be putting as much effort into aiming because you're expecting the game to aim for you. And I feel like that creates a lot of problems for players. And also, they don't develop the skills of actually aiming on a controller because, one, they're expecting too much, but two, they think it's just not working for them. Aim assist in Fortnite is buggy and inconsistent, and sometimes it cuts out, but it also isn't as strong as what a lot of players are expecting, and I think that creates a lot of problems for players. Another thing that can make this kind of weird is that a lot of the guns in Fortnite have different aim assist values, and this can be especially strange when going from like normal BR to reload because the pool of weapons that you come across in that way, or even blitz, is quite high. But just knowing which guns have stronger or weaker aim assist in the loot pool can help you a lot. This season, for example, the regular pistol, I think, is the weapon that has the strongest aim assist. I don't know this definitively, like what is coded, but just playing the game, it feels to me like the pistol has incredibly strong aim assist. The Thunderburst, which is what I prefer, feels like it has weaker aim assist to me than the pistol, but I still like the Thunderburst because it's what feels good to me. And then shotgun-wise, I don't know if this is true. Again, this is just feeling based, but to me, it feels like the Chaos Reloader has less aim assist than like the Hammer twin shotguns. And so not necessarily that this is something that needs to always impact what items you decide to use, but knowing which weapons in the loot pool kind of favor controller or don't favor controller can help you. And then this can also help with your expectations. Again, I'm not expecting pistol aim assist when I'm using the Thunderburst SMG because I know the Thunderburst SMG has, you know, weaker aim assist than the regular pistol. So just learning those things and kind of keeping that in mind can really help. Another area where aim assist is going to be a problem is when you're in bushes. And so bushes are weird in Fortnite. They mostly remove aim assist, but it depends on the fight. I feel like if you're in a bush shooting out on an enemy who's not in a bush, you'll have aim assist and the game will feel fine. If you're on the outside of the bush and the enemy is in the inside, you won't have it typically. And then if you're both in the bush fighting, it feels most of the time like you won't have aim assist from my experience. And this is normally a problem, and normally I would recommend if you're a controller player that you should avoid bush fights because things can get kind of wonky unless you have like a huge HP advantage, right? Especially if you're console because the graphics make it very hard to see in a bush. But this season with the 7 power gloves, you can just uppercut enemies out of bushes, and so this isn't as much of a problem this season. If you're ever in a bush, use the 7 power gloves, knock the enemy out. Not only are you going to remove the awkwardness of the bush, but you're going to get yourself into a situation where you're definitely going to have aim assist, and that is going to benefit you. If you are playing controller on PC, don't touch your mouse or keyboard while you're in a match, because doing this will disable aim assist for a period of time. Back in the day, there was a bug where people would use constant controller input to get aim assist on mouse and keyboard, and so to rectify that, Fortnite made it so touching your mouse or your keyboard during the match griefs your aim assist. So don't do that. I actually had a problem where just bumping my desk would make my mouse move, and then that would grief my aim assist. So I actually have my mouse flipped upside down most of the time while I'm actually in a game, or just like putting my phone on my desk would be enough force to move the mouse a little bit and then cause that problem. So just keep in mind, don't be tabbing out during the match constantly. Don't be touching your mouse and keyboard during the match. And, you know, if you care a lot, maybe flip the mouse upside down so that that problem just is less likely to happen. And then the final thing I'm going to talk about is a mindset that I think a lot of players have just by reading comments, and that is that they blame their input method for everything that goes wrong. And, you know, every time they lose, it's PC keyboard players on the best setup of all time, and that's why they're losing. There are people out there, you know, playing on very good setups, but there are also a lot of PC players out there that are playing on setups that run worse than consoles. The setup isn't everything. It helps for sure. But regardless, a lot of players that you play against are also playing on controller. Every time you fight, it's not a keyboard player. I get countless comments on my videos of people telling me it's unfair that they have to play against keyboard players like me. And the buttons are on the bottom of the screen at all times for them just to see, right? So even when it's obvious somebody's playing controller, people will still accuse them of playing keyboard because they have such an ingrained kind of thought in their mind that they can't play well because they play on controller. And I think this is not a good, you know, mindset to have. There's a lot of things you can do to help. Unfortunately, controller is somewhat pay to win in the sense that like having a custom controller will help a lot, or pay for an advantage. But at the end of the day, regardless of what your setup is, you could probably play better than you're currently playing if you practice and try to improve and put in the time to improve. And so having the mindset that every time you lose, it's because controller, probably not going to help you, and it's probably holding you back in the long run. So don't think like that if you do actually want to get better and you're 15.5 minutes into a video about advice for controller players in Fortnite. So you probably want to get better if you've watched to this point in the video. But that is going to be it for this. As always, if you guys did find this to be helpful, informative, or interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.